Good evening, everybody. My name is Councillor Hannah Fleet, and I'm the Chair of the Education and Skills Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I welcome everybody to today's meeting, which is a hybrid meeting. The meeting is live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Can I remind members that translation facilities are available, and for those attending on Zoom to choose the language of choice. For those wishing to speak in the chamber, please raise your hand. For those on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. We will alternate between speakers in the chamber and on Zoom. For those attending remotely, please note that those in the chamber will be unable to use the chat facility. If possible, Zoom attendees are required to leave their camera on at all times. The agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Apologies have been received from Jenny Williams, Strategic Director for Social Care and Education, and also Councillor Keith Eales and Councillor Anne McCaffrey will be joining us at about 5:30.
Thank you, Sally. Item 2. Councillor Sherrill.
Thanks very much, Chair. I think Councillor Jacob is off sick. If he's on education, then please accept his apologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any others? Thank you. So any declarations of interest, please? Okay, we're not aware of any. Thank you. So we'll move on. Any urgent matters? No. Okay, so we've got one thing that I would like to say on behalf of the committee. So can I extend my condolences to the family of Jonathan Morgan, the head teacher of Sgiliau, who recently passed away. I would like to bring Dr. Lowry Brown in, who would like to say a few words.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Hannah, a dwi am droi i'r Gymraeg rwan. Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Fel y gwyddoch chi, cawsom sioc a thristwch mawr o glywed am farwolaeth sydyn Jonathan Morgan tra'n sgïo gyda'i deulu dros wyliau'r Nadolig. Roedd Jonathan yn uchel ei barch o fewn y gymuned addysg ar lefel rhyngwladol, cenedlaethol, rhanbarthol a lleol, ac roedd ei ymrwymiad i'r sector addysg yn enwedig cynhwysiant yn ysbrydoledig. Roedd Jonathan yn gydweithiwr agos ac yn ffrind i gymuned Penaethiaid Conwy, ac roedd yn aelod allweddol o dîm Conwy. Roedd ei egni a'i angerdd tuag at Ysgol Gogarth, y staff, y dysgwyr a'r gymuned ehangach yn heintus ac roedd yn hynod falch o'r ysgol a'i chyflawniadau. Roedd ei wybodaeth a'i arbenigedd a'i ddull rhesymegol o ymdrin a phroblemau a heriau yn rhywbeth yr oedd pob un ohonom yn ei werthfawrogi, ynghyd a'i ddull gallu ei wneud, y can-do. Mae'n meddyliau wedi bod gyda thîm cyfan Ysgol y Gogarth, y plant a'r bobl ifanc a'i teuluoedd a'r staff wrth gwrs, a byddwn nhw'n parhau i'w cefnogi dros yr wythnosau a'r misoedd nesaf. Cydymdeimlwn yn ddwys â Gwenda, Rhydian ac Elin a'i deulu a'i ffrindiau agos. Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lowry, for those kind words. I'm going to move on to the minutes now. The minutes are here for accuracy only and not for debate. So can I have a proposer to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of November 2022? Thank you, Grenell. And can I have a seconder? Okay. And can we just take a vote on that, please, to approve the minutes? So I confirm that the minutes are approved. Thank you. So we've now got item 5, the minutes of the school budget forum. This is to note the minutes of the school budget forum held on the 27th of October 2022. Could I have a proposer to note those minutes? Joe. Thank you, Councillor Joe. And can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Grenell. Can I ask everyone to have a show of hands, please, to note the minutes? Thank you very much. So I confirm that those minutes are noted. So item 6 is questions to Cabinet members, and I'm not aware of any. Thank you. Item 7. Item 7 is to review the forward work programme. This is pages 20 to 62 in your pack. I've got Dawn Hughes here, who's the Scrutiny and Committee Services Officer, to present the item. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Chair. And I think Happy New Year. I haven't seen you all, so it's a bit late in the day, but I think it's our first meeting. So yes, the forward work programme, can I advise members of the following? So Lowry has now provided some provisional dates for the majority of items under future items. So those will come through as normal. Can I just advise that at the next meeting on the 7th of March, officers will present reports on the skills and employability strategy and the outcomes from the Social Inclusion Service Foundation phase. Can I also remind members that an update on progress of the Social Care and Education Service Development Programme will be presented to the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee on Wednesday, the 25th of the 1st, and members of this committee are invited to attend to listen to the debates, because obviously they will discuss some education projects under there. So you will all receive an invite, and everybody will have an agenda. So that's my update, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Do you have any questions to Dawn? No? Okay, can I have a proposer to accept that item? Thank you, Councillor Kay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dillwyn as well. I think we're all fighting for this one. Please, could I have a show of hands if you agree with the forward work programme? Thank you very much, that's agreed. So item 8A, this is the local authority school admissions policy for 2024 to 2025. And I've got Kerry Dalzell, thank you very much, Kerry, who is the Education Improvement Service Development Officer, who's going to present this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon or evening, everybody. I'm Kerry Dalzell, I'm from the Education Improvement Service.
Terry, can you turn your video off? You're cutting out, unfortunately, in the chamber. So yeah, thank you.
Is that any better, hopefully?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
That's fine, no problem. So I'm here this afternoon to present the annual review of the admissions policy for 24-25. The changes from last year's policy are only minor, and I'll talk you through the key points in the report and highlight those sections of the policy that have had changes made to them. And I'll bring the policy up on the screen, hopefully, and just talk you through them. So from the report, an internal review has been undertaken of the Council's admissions policy and has proposed that minor changes need to be made to the policy. As such, the policy is being presented to scrutiny and Cabinet with a view to consulting on the policy with the minor changes to be introduced from the 23-24 version. The minor changes are as follows. So changes to the relevant dates and year to which the policy applies, changes to the term looked after children, changes to section on medical needs, clarification on where catchment maps can be viewed, clarification of learners with 2 permanent exclusion, and changes to the section on how to apply for school places. I'll point those out in the policy in a moment. The consultation will take place with stakeholders and will include sharing a copy of the proposed admissions policy and the proposed admission numbers. The consultation will also be published on the Conway County Borough Council website and will run from the 25th of January to the 28th of February. Stakeholders will include all schools, special school and pupil referral unit, neighbouring authorities, diocese directors of education, education management team and the admission forum members. Under the School Standards and Framework Act 1998, the statutory code, the School Admission Code 2013, states that LAs must consult each year on the admissions arrangement and for those schools for which they are the admission authority. If any schools where the authority is not the admissions authority choose to change their admissions policy, they will undertake their own consultation on those changes. So the recommendations for overview and scrutiny is that the Education and Skills Overview and Scrutiny Committee scrutinises the policy for 24-25 admission year on the basis of the minor amendments to the wording of the policy as it stands from the 23-24 policy and makes any comments or suggestions. And then next Tuesday, we're going to Cabinet, and obviously there is to approve the local policy for consultation, and that delegated authority be given to the Head of Education Services in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Education to make any minor amendments to the policy following the consultation and then adopt and publish the policy. So the report details, the admissions policy forms the first steps in the process of drawing up Conway's admission arrangements in accordance with the principles outlined in the Welsh Government School Admissions Code 2013. Admissions arrangements help to ensure that the admissions system works for the benefit of both schools and pupils, and this is done annually. The admissions policy has been slightly revised from the previously agreed policy for the 23-24 admission year, and the revisions are as below. So hopefully I'm just going to share my screen and I'll bring up the policy in front. Okay. Hopefully that's come through to everybody. Okay, so the first change is to dates and years which the policy. So
sorry, Kerry, I'm sorry. Kerry, you're still cutting out, unfortunately.
Okay.
So can I suggest that you stop sharing your screen? Like,
yes,
just
of course. I can just comment on the pages of the pack if that helps. Yeah. So the first change to the relevant dates and year to which the policy applies can be found on page 18. So this change is simply to the dates of the main admissions round, for example, when the application is open, when the closing date and the decision day. These dates have been agreed with the North Wales Admissions Officer Group to assist those families who apply cross-county. So the second change is the section on medical needs, and this is on page 21. This change is simply a removal of the final sentence, and this was done on consultation with the ALN service manager. We were just keen to ensure that the policy didn't assume that those with medical needs automatically have ALN, so we've just taken that sentence out. The third change is to the term, or the change to the term looked after children. This is now known as children looked after, and that is available on page 21. The next change is to do with clarification on where catchment maps can be found, and again this is on page 21. The change explaining how to obtain a copy of the school catchment maps, and this is also referred to on page 14. So we've included there an email address and contact number for any parents or those interested parties wanting to obtain a copy of the catchment maps of any school. The clarification of learners with 2 permanent exclusions is the next change, and that's on page 12. And all we've done there is insertion of the word permanent, just to make it very clear that it's 2 permanent exclusions and not fixed term exclusions. So it was just a change in the title. The narrative remains the same. Changes to section on how to apply for a school place. This is on page 19. And it's removal of the reference to App Conway, as this is no longer offers this function. This is now done through the website or by contacting the admissions department. So we've just updated that information as well. So those are the changes. According to the Statutory School Admissions Code for Wales, the admissions policy consultation must be of reasonable length and must be completed by the 1st of March. The consultation will run from the 25th of January to the 28th of February. Once the consultation period has ended, the final version of the policy will be published by the 15th of April in accordance with the code. With reference to options, and this is a consultation report, as such there are no stated options. However, the committee members are invited to scrutinise a proposed revised policy and to make any suggestions as they see fit. So with reference to consultation, the report to the committee is part of the consultation on the revisions that must be undertaken prior to the 1st of March and prior to the publication of the final version. The Cabinet Portfolio Member, Councillor Julie Fallon, has been consulted and provided this feedback, which is in the report, which offers her full support. As part of the consultation, all interested parties will receive a copy of the proposed policy and will be invited to comment. That's the end of my presentation. I don't know if anybody had any questions or queries I can help with.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Do we have any questions from anybody? Okay, I can see. Councillor Cheryl.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Yes, just to say how much I welcome the change in the wording from looked after children to children looked after. And I really hope that we can remove the acronyms LAC from everything. Children really don't like it, the children and young people. So this is a very welcome step forward. I can see Dr. Lowry smiling at that. It's a conversation we've had many times. So I hope that it's removed from all other education paperwork. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Cheryl. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Councillor Dilwyn?
Yeah, just
Sure. Could you put your mic on, please?
Ydy hynna yn effeithio cyfieithiad? Neu dwi'n cymryd yn ganiataol o feddwl o'i gyfeithio o beth sgynna i mewn na bod hwn yn dyfycach i'r cyfeithiad o'r Cymraeg i'r Saesneg wan di? Sut mae di effeithio hwnnw?
Ymddiheuriadau, o'n i'm yn gallu clywed hyn, da chi'n ddistaw iawn, Cynghorydd Robert, sori.
Ia, sut mae o'n effeithio cyfeithiad? Ydy o'n neud rhyw wahaniaeth yn fanno? Chos o be dwi'n gofio, plant mewn gofal, oedd o'n y Gymraeg, be di'r cyfeithiad Cymraeg i hwnna wan?
Gad i mi weld rwan, da ni wedi cael, da ni wedi gyrru o'i adran cyfieithu. Gad i mi weld os mae wedi dod yn ôl, sori am hyn.
Do we have anyone that could explain?
Leave it for another day.
Oh,
I'm just going to check the document now, bear with me 1 second.
thank you.
Right, yes, it has been translated. I'll just bring it up. Bear with me a second. Plant sydd yn derbyn gofal ydi o. Yeah, plant sydd yn derbyn gofal.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any other questions? No. Okay, well, in that case, we have the recommendation that we have a look at it. This is what we have done. So we now have to vote on a recommendation to Cabinet. So that the recommendation is that Cabinet approves the local authority schools admissions policy for 2023 to 2024 for consultation. That delegated authority be given to the Head of Education Services in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Education to make any minor amendments to the policy following the consultation, and then to adopt and publish the policy. Do I have a proposer for that? Thank you, Councillor Kay. Do I have someone happy to second? Councillor Ivor, thank you. So could we take a vote on that, please? Okay, that looks like everybody. Thank you very much. That's been that'll be sent as a recommendation to Cabinet. Thank you very much. And we have item 8B. And item 8B is on peer-to-peer sexual harassment. And Dr. Lowry Brown, the Head of Education Services, is going to present this item. Thank you, Dr. Lowry.
Good afternoon, members. I'm going to present this in English, if I may, Councillor Hannah. And apologies that we aren't there in person. You know that we have been there, but we just felt that the weather was a little precarious, and I didn't want officers to be stranded in Bodlondeb when they'd arranged childcare. So apologies, and hopefully next time now we'll have no weather issues. Okay, so I'm just going to provide you with an overview of the report that the team have collectively put together over a number of weeks now. And this is in response to a topic selection which was presented by Councillor Paul, who I think, if I can see, is one of the few that are in the chamber. So yeah, good afternoon, Councillor Paul. So I'm going to draw your attention to some of the most salient points in the report, just providing an overview of the work that goes on across social care and education teams in Conway. And then, of course, we'll open it up, hopefully, to a really interesting discussion. Okay, so the purpose of the report which you've had is to provide you as elected members with assurances that education settings, schools, are responding to the recommendations made in Estin's recent thematic review of peer-on-peer sexual harassment. And the aim also is to provide details of how these issues are addressed within the context of the statutory framework on embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental well-being. And you'll see that I'll be referring quite a bit to this statutory framework as we go along, and it is appended as well to the report. The report aims to provide details of the range of interventions and the processes and pathways and advice platforms that are in place and are well established across social care and education services. And these are in place to ensure that schools have the adequate skills and tools to respond to incidents of this nature. We all know that safeguarding is everybody's business across each service area within the local authority. And the role of education, particularly in safeguarding children effectively, is key, as education settings have frequent contact with children and young people and their families, and at times are the only professionals in their lives. Education settings and schools often bring a child or young person into contact with that trusted adult, and school staff over time will get to know the child and the family as well as their wider community. And of course, we know that this brings responsibilities and opportunities. Therefore, safeguarding should be embedded into the culture of all education settings and schools in order that early intervention and prevention can be implemented effectively. As you'll see from the report, social care and education colleagues have worked in collaboration with Conway schools across the local authority to ensure that they embed a whole school approach to being better informed and better equipped to address and signpost issues relating to peer-on-peer sexual harassment. So in order to ensure compliance with those recommendations from the Estin thematic review, schools across the local authority have been offered bespoke training which focuses on the relationships and specifically to support the forming of healthy, respectful and dignified relationships and friendships. And you'll be aware from recent media coverage and also the narrative in other local authorities that relationships and sexuality education is now a mandatory element of the curriculum for Wales framework. So this is statutory guidance for head teachers, governing bodies, which many of you are a governor on, and of course local authorities. And individual schools have a direct responsibility for implementation as corporate bodies within their own right. So in Conway, the focus is on adopting a consistent whole school approach across the local authority, which embeds the relationship and sexuality education code and guidance and addressing all of the three broad components of it. And these are relationships and identity, sexual health and well-being, empowerment, safety and respect. So we have an RSE lead in each school, and they manage the delivery of the healthy and safe relationships programme of work. And this provides guidance on how to deliver developmentally and age-appropriate education, and also provides lists of approved resources and links to support the delivery. And these are referenced in Appendix 3 of the report, so you can have a look at those following the meeting. We've worked over time really closely, and the officers that are present here tonight have been instrumental in this, to develop both secondary and primary healthy and safe relationships, professional learning communities. We've developed these across the local authority, and this supports the delivery of the curriculum. All secondary schools in Conway have committed to the statutory framework on embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental well-being, and also the relationships and sexuality education code and guidance. We've provided interactive and online training opportunities, so both face-to-face and remote. And these are to provide school staff with the support to recognise key telltale signs early, to confidently and responsibly raise issues and signpost to the relevant support services and agencies, which is key. And in Conway, we've got a unique way of gathering information. We have two well-established surveys. We have a secondary and a primary survey, and both are instrumental in shaping the strategic direction for schools in relation to selecting appropriate intervention training and also providing professional support and guidance to them. So we have the National Secondary School Health Research Network survey, and this is, the acronym is SHRN. And this is the biggest learner lifestyle survey in the world. And we've used this data from our Conway SHRN to support the delivery of a developmentally age-appropriate RSE curriculum. And then we've also got a bespoke Conway primary survey, which we wrote in 2018. So this is unique to Conway, and it's called the Primary Pupil Online Wellbeing Survey. So this is designed to measure and explore the primary age learners' perception of the wellbeing, provision, intervention, and experience in school. And once again, we use the data from this online survey to prioritise the delivery of intervention programmes based, of course, on that learner feedback. So across social care and education, you'll see from the report, a range of teams continue to work collaboratively with all schools, secondary and primary, to ensure that they embed a whole school approach to the managing of peer-on-peer sexual harassment. And that embedding of a whole school approach is a key theme for us here in Conway, and you'll see that throughout the report. Our Conway Youth Service, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, actively engages in the work of the PLCs, so the Conway Healthy and Safe Relationships PLC, and all our youth workers are child exploitation online protection ambassadors, so CEOPs, and they deliver an accredited peer-to-peer support programme within secondary schools and also community settings. So they provide young people with information and knowledge to support their peers, to signpost to a responsible, trusted adult if needed. They also deliver healthy relationships and sexual health sessions, and they do that within community provisions. These can be delivered as part of a planned session, or the support is often available for when young people disclose anything which concerns them. And then moving on to our family centres, they provide early support for families. Of course, we know that they're based within local communities, and they work in partnership with schools across the local authority, and social care teams support families affected by this issue. We're running awareness raising sessions with parents and the communities. So examples of these sessions are promoting and delivering groups which include information about internet safety, child sexual abuse awareness, exploitation awareness, and they do that via the Lucy Faithfull Foundation Parents Project. There are sessions for parents on how to talk with their children about growing up, consent, respect, and healthy relationships. There's a library as well in each family centre of resources and books that families can loan. And of course, the family centres, as do we in terms of education teams, continue to promote and add the resources to the Conway's webpage. We've put a link to the webpage in the report, so that's the Keeping Children Safe from Child Sexual Abuse. It's worth having a look at that webpage. Our family centre staff work closely with other teams, such as the Conway Youth Service. They promote their internet safety resources and sessions, and also they host drop-ins for young people. They also host in the family centres drop-ins by school nurses outside of that school environment to advise on sexual health and well-being. And of course, some families who require a more tailored or individual support in the early intervention prevention context, they're referred to our parents protect workers. And then I'll just refer now a little bit specifically to the safeguarding pathway. So in each school, we, as you'll know, as governors and elected members, we have a designated safeguarding person. And these leads follow, of course, the Wales safeguarding procedures as part of the Social Service and Wellbeing Act, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, as well as internal school policies, which they adhere to. So when they have a concern regarding a child who might be suffering abuse, harm or neglect, of course, the Act and the policies come into play. When disclosures are made, the Welsh Government practice guidance is adhered to, and in terms of supporting both the victim and the perpetrator, as well as seeking advice and support from other key agencies, so Education Safeguarding Lead, Children's Services, Police Liaison Officers, NSPCC, and of course the Lucy Faithfull Foundation. All of the designated safeguarding leads in schools, which I've just referred to, have recently received training in relation to peer-on-peer sexual harassment. And we are offering an additional training from Welsh Government in relation to understanding, preventing and responding to incidents of online sexual harassment among children and young people, something that we're seeing more prevalent now. So where schools have incidents of peer-on-peer sexual harassment reported, they of course should look to follow their own school's behaviour and safeguarding policy. So this will make sure and will aid the school in ensuring that there's a consistent response and that contact is made with the relevant, appropriate additional services. Each report of harassment, of course, should be viewed in its own right to determine the response required. There are also a range, which I'm sure you're familiar with, of resources on our own Conway intranet. You may want to familiarise yourselves with these as elected members. So these include short explanatory videos, which provide staff with a basic level of knowledge about childhood sexual exploitation and harmful sexual behaviour. School staff are encouraged to include this as part of their annual safeguarding training. So this will assist school staff to identify harmful sexual behaviour when they see something of concern. The Multi-Agency Child Sexual Abuse Forum, so the MACSAF, and there's literature appended to the report, are a team of trained professionals in child sexual abuse who also offer consultations to our staff within schools who need or who may need additional advice and support when they're presented with individual cases. Also in Conway, we have a well-established safeguarding audit, and this is undertaken on an annual basis, and this monitors the recommendations within the Estyn thematic report. This process ensures that schools are regularly evaluating their impact on pupil well-being, and also ensures that staff are updating their professional learning by attending appropriate training opportunities. And the head teacher and the designated governor for safeguarding on each governing body at every school is responsible for ensuring that the feedback provided to us as a local authority via that safeguarding audit is accurate and reflects the work being undertaken by the school. So I'm sure you'll all agree that this report really does highlight the responsive and proactive nature of services across social care and education, which ensures that there is a consistent approach to safeguarding children and young people, whilst of course promoting their emotional health and well-being. And the aim throughout this piece of work is to enable and empower learners and professionals to be better informed and better equipped to make informed choices and adopt measures to safeguard themselves and others. So members should be assured from the information that we've presented today that this report demonstrates how education settings across the local authority meet the recommendations highlighted within this thematic review. And I think we're really fortunate, as you'll see from some of the responses to your questions this evening, we are so fortunate to have such a committed, knowledgeable, experienced team across social care and education to support schools through these challenging issues. So happy to have opened the floor to any questions, and of course I, along with the team, will try and respond.
Thank you very much, Lowry. We've got Councillor Julie.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Lowry, for that presentation. I just wanted to echo some of the comments that Lowry's made there. You know, I'm fortunate enough that I get to visit nearly all our schools, probably all of them over a period of time, and interact with teachers, interact with the safeguarding officers within the school, with pupils. And it's just, I mean, it's sad, isn't it, that we need to have this kind of provision in place, but things have shifted so much from when I was in school that, yeah, I'm really happy, and I've worked closely with Nia over the last few years as well, with the provision that's there and with the approach that's being taken and incorporating the new curriculum as well. You know, I think it's really important that young people understand what's appropriate. You know, we use the word empowerment within this a lot, and I think it's empowering young people to feel confident, whether that's to speak up because something inappropriate's happened, or to be able to speak on relationships, whether they see their friends doing something, which a lot of the training here, you know, that peer-to-peer support and that understanding, you know, that's really powerful for a friend to say to another friend, what you've said and done there is inappropriate, you know, and this is what this does, and this is what the education that young people are receiving in school, and then the support that they're getting from the staff is doing. It's empowering people to say when things are not appropriate, and it's also making them feel comfortable with talking about their own sexuality, you know, and it's really important that we shift forward and that education moves in that direction. And, you know, you've seen, I'm sure from reading the report, the amount of training that's available there. It's fantastic, and I've taken part in some of the training, not all of it. I mean, I'd like to probably continue some of this further, but I just wanted to say thank you to Nia in particular, who's worked incredibly hard on this over the years and supports school fantastically, and obviously Lowry, and to our schools themselves who've completely embraced this. Yeah, and like I said, it's sad that it's needed, but we've all seen how times have changed, and I think it's just great that this gives young people the opportunity to embrace who they are and to understand what's appropriate and not appropriate. So thank you, Chair, for letting me comment.
Thank you, Councillor Julie. And we can never underestimate how important it is to make our young people feel empowered. And that's really, really the most important bit of the whole of this to me. Councillor Gwanel.
Dwi am siarad yn Gymraeg. Hoffwn ni ddiolch a Llangyfarch, Dr Lowri Brown a Nia a'r tîm am y gwaith aruthrol o baratoi'r dosben yma. Mae'n fanwl a chynhwysfawr ac yn nodi'n glir iawn pwysigrwydd addysgu ein plant a phobl ifanc ynglyn â perthnasoedd iach a priodol. Mae'r atodiadau hefyd yn werthfawr gan gynnwys dolenni i dudalennau, fideos a pamffledi ar y we, a fydd yn defnyddiol i unrhyw un sy'n ymwneud â phlant a phobl ifanc. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am y gwaith yma.
Thank you, Gwenol. Councillor Kay.
Thank you. Mine's quite a specific question, really, something that came up recently in a governor's meeting at Emrys ap Iwan. We've noticed an increase in boys' behaviour with things like Andrew Tate, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. So he's currently been arrested, but he's got his social media channels, which are heavy in misogyny, and there's been some sort of sexual trafficking, that sort of thing. The high schools are noticing a change in behaviour of boys that are following him. Have we got anything specific training wise or that's going out to schools to help support the schools with the older boys that might be watching this sort of content? I was just wondering if we had anything moving forward. It's kind of a new way, isn't it, with social media and everything, and when we've got people like that out there that our teenage boys are watching, and maybe the ideals that he's putting out there, it's not going to be helping situations like this, is it? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring Nia in, Councillor Hannah, please, to respond to that?
Of course, Nia.
Thank you. Obviously, there are many sort of issues out there that we have to be aware of, and obviously we have to be, the most important thing is about consulting with young people as to what the issues are, but also working with the partners as well. So it's involving social care and the offices as well, police as well, in terms of how we approach, because we can't always control what's actually going on outside there in terms of social media, but what we can do is equip our young people to ask those questions, to be equipped with skills as well to be able to address. But also I think it's about making sure that our teachers are, as mentioned in the report, are recognising those telltale signs, change in mood, behaviour, attendance, and also equipping teachers to have that confidence to raise the issue. They don't have to be experts in the subject, but what they have to do is have the confidence to raise the issue and to pitch the questioning and the interaction with that individual to make sure that they're not judging. So basically what we're doing is equipping teachers with skills to ask non-judgmental questions, so they get the information they can then share with the partners. So there's a whole host of different types of training in terms of resilience. And the danger is if we just zoom in into one particular area, we might be neglecting another area. So the most important thing are the key skills, the confidence, the consistent skills in terms of resilience, being able to challenge as well, and knowing where to seek support as well. But as you've mentioned already, Welsh governments have also produced several links, as well as Conwy, in terms of how to advise parents as well and carers within the community as well. NSPCC, many of the support agencies, trusted partners also provide guidance.
Does that answer your question? I also believe some schools have actually had assemblies where they've been raising, with it having been in the news so much. I think that your teachers with this increased confidence actually are taking on this issue. And that's anecdotally what I'm hearing from some secondary schools.
Especially in Conwy as well, we've set up the professional learning communities. I've just been in a meeting now where we've had the clusters primary schools meeting with the secondary, and what the model that we have that's actually been created in Conwy, the professional learning community, is where we're not just sharing information, but we're building the confidence and the professionalism really of the teacher. So basically making sure that we address any of these issues that are emerging, but creating that safety net as well for teachers. We are legally bound to the RSC code guidance. I'm delighted really that it is a mandatory requirement now, because the R is the relationships, and as Councillor Julie said, it's about actually you know, focusing on the relationships we have with, even with social media, and how we behave with each other. We're very lucky we have interventions like Kiva as well, which are anti-bullying programs. And what I like about Kiva in particular is, which again comes under the RSC code and guidance, and every secondary school in Conwy has bought into, or we've actually funded for them to buy into or to commit to Kiva. And I think Bangor University is delivering that. And what we're finding is that we're working not just with the victim and the perpetrator, but we're actually working with the whole school. So everybody, exactly like Councillor Julie mentioned now, it's everybody's responsibility. So we need to give everybody the sort of skills to be able to support each other. And when you think that we have 16,000 pupils in Conwy, we have a duty of care for every single one. Not everyone will maybe experience peer-to-peer sexual harassment, but they may well witness it. And when we know from the Addysg report, you know, 71% apparently of women of all ages experience sexual harassment. And I think what we need to do, 86% of 18 to 24 experience sexual harassment in public places. And we need to remember that that data is specific for women, but this is every gender might be exposed to sexual harassment. So it's really important that we nip it in the bud, really, that we actually provide early intervention to make sure that we're equipped with the skills at every angle, really, to deal with these life challenges.
Thank you very much, Nia. Got Councillor Anthony with a hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me? Okay. I've been teaching swimming and gym instruction for over 30, 40 years, from kids the age of 3-year-old up to about 40-year-old. And I'll tell you something, it's all about confidence and giving people and children confidence to believe in themselves. Now, what goes on in the background is difficult to comprehend for any teacher or any person who's instructing people to do things, whether it's teaching swimming or whether it's teaching academics. The difficult thing is to try and recognize that and find out what's going on in the background, but you can't do that. The most important thing for a teacher in any capacity is to say how wonderful and important these kids are and adults are in life, and give them confidence and recognize the signs if you see a sad face or a sad person, and then bring that forward and give them confidence to bring themselves forward. What I find amazing is that what I'm listening to here is that, you know, in any capacity of abuse, in any angle of life, is a difficult comprehension for me because I've never experienced it. But what I do recognize is when people are sad, and when I bring them out and give them confidence, they're a better person. Now, how you deal with that is just exactly what you're saying when I'm listening to it. Academically, it's brilliant, but the point is the sensitivity about understanding it between each other and bringing that forward and getting kids and getting adults to believe in themselves and asking them questions. Are you okay? Is everything fine? Come and talk to me. Come and talk to the authorities. That's what I'm trying to put over here. And I've been doing it for so long, and I've taught kids to swim. I've taught teenagers to be fit and gym instructed them on the oval in gym instruction, and brought them out from like 12-year-olds during that puberty age when they're awkward, and getting them into like 12 to 16, teaching them to swim and be athletes. The point is recognizing it. That's the key issue here, may I say.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience there, Anthony. I've got Councillor Raz.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just coming back to the question that was asked before about the Andrew Tate issue. Could you just clarify for me, please? Is that something, dealing with that's going to be something that will become part of the RSE curriculum, or is that just for schools to deal with as they see fit at the moment? Because I know it is something that's being taken on in schools in Scotland. So just a clarification there for me, please. Thank you.
We obviously we take guidance from Welsh Government, and obviously they provide the directive in terms of the delivery of the RSC code and guidance. But our role through the professional learning communities is to identify emerging issues which sadly come to the surface on a daily basis. So again, it's about through setting up the professional learning communities, we're adjusting the delivery and we're making sure that we're embedding different elements or referring to different incidents or examples of threats through the scheme of work. So we're actually working, the way that the RSE code guidance operates is that we have to embed it cross-curricular across every aspect of the areas of learning within the new curriculum. So this could be an issue in terms of humanities, or it could be to do with creative arts. So basically, we'd be using an example and then asking, through the education as to how we would approach bringing in the experts then as well in terms of safety.
Councillor Hannah, can I just come in and add to what Nia said? Councillor Ros, I think that's a really pertinent question actually, because these issues in society, such as this particular one, are going to come and go, and unfortunately we're going to see more of this in the weeks, months, years, unfortunately. And I think what we're trying to do is provide schools with a toolkit, provide teaching staff, non-teaching staff with the tools to be able to respond to these issues that will come, to face them and to challenge them. So we don't focus on specific issues or incidents that are shared in the media, but it's about our response to them, making sure that we respond appropriate to these youngsters when they do come forward, and providing them with those tools really. So I think it's a really good question, because it demonstrates what's needed, I think, in schools to respond to these types of issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for responding there. I'm going to go to Councillor Paul now, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as you know, I wrote when this report came out, I wrote to Larry, yourself and Julie, the Cabinet member, with a couple of specific questions to drill down. But before I raise those, the reason I raised this as a topic was that I first was aware in Wales that more work was going on when I read a Senedd report on this issue. I then picked up the Estyn report and read that, and commend both reports for, in a sense, highlighting the issues and giving a steer going forward. I can't quite remember, but I don't know if this became to education in some other form, but I do remember, because I'm a member of Audit and Governance Committee, that as a member there, we also discussed this topic in some detail. And on Audit and Governance, where there are lay people as well as you know, we weren't reassured with what was being proposed at that time, which was the summer of last year. I put in a topic report basically based on all of that, and thinking, though it's often uncomfortable, I think, for councillors, politicians to challenge and question and drill down on professional practice and what's actually going on in schools. It's very much our job, and individually and collectively throughout, we're not always good at that. And you can only see what was in the news today in terms of the history in the police, and the sort of abuse and stuff that's gone on there. And of course, if you're as old as I am, you've had one thing after another in terms of professional practice over a long period of time where things, we haven't got things right. And so this process of keep on pushing and drilling down to check at every stage what we're doing is as robust and rigorous as possible is so important. So in those contexts, I want to pursue on two questions. One is this issue of the audit and the robustness and rigorousness of the collection of information within all schools across the county, and then reporting back that audit to the local authority, to Estin, to those processes, to be assured that each of our schools is, each time they're dealing with these incidents, and let's be honest, the best practice is the teacher, wherever they are in the school or when they see something on the way to school, to intervene there and then with the children and resolve those issues at the earliest possible point. And that sort of practice obviously is what's important, and that takes significant self-confidence for those teachers, and that's why the training and everything is so important. But on those incidents where youngsters are disclosing and seeking help, and parents on their behalf and carers on their behalf are pursuing issues, it's really important to know, if you like, quantitatively and qualitatively what's going on there, both for the victims and the perpetrators, because the perpetrators are children and young people, and they need assistance and support as much as the victim or the survivor of the incident. And I just want to press a bit further on the detail of that auditing. And the second question, which again, I just want to press on a bit more. I know we've been advised that there's an online feedback system from children and young people. But again, I want to press on, where does that data come back to us as elected members? And from my personal viewpoint, not that that's not good, that people can send stuff back digitally online and say, this is how it's working for us in our school. But I do think there also needs to be some bringing together of groups of children and young people to actually talk through the realities of their experience in their primary school or their secondary school or their special school, wherever they are, so that we can also get that sort of qualitative information about the detail of their experience in the here and now. So in a sense, I'm trying to press you further, I hope in a supportive and friendly way, to do more as well. Thank you.
Dr. Larry, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I will. And then I'll bring Nia in relation to the surveys and the way in which we collate data. Councillor Paul, I'm confident that the answer to your specific questions this evening are within the reports and within the links and within the resources that we've provided. So I really would urge you to go back and have a really careful read of the report, because there's an awful lot of detail in it, much of which we haven't covered this evening. In response to your question around the collation of information and I suppose, for want of a better term, you're using the word audit, we've got our safeguarding audit in place. We're not complacent with that. We review it on an annual basis and are currently reviewing it at the moment. And we're working with Estin now in light of the new inspectorate framework, which you all may want to have a look at, because this is what is guiding our practice from a regulatory perspective. We're working with them to align our safeguarding tool with the revised inspectorate framework. So the safeguarding toolkit is an evidence-based tool which will gather information and then we'll identify actions for schools where appropriate. So it's an assurance tool, really, to make sure that things are in place in terms of professional learning, in terms of pathways, in terms of interventions, and also that there are safe places for learners, children and young people to disclose. So one thing that we could do is we could look at using our youth council, so our newly formed youth council, and get some feedback from them on how young people do feel about this. But I want to hand over to Nia now, because the surveys that we've got in place here in Conway, Councillor Paul, and I'll say this with complete confidence, and I'll challenge you to find another local authority that collates information like we do within this area. We've got the primary wellbeing online survey and the Shern, and I'm going to hand over to Nia, but that is a really rich compilation of the views of learners, which we gather on a regular basis, and we do shape service delivery using that information. So, you know, this is a constant process of self-improvement, self-evaluation, using feedback from learners, school staff, parents and communities to make sure that we're responding to needs. So I'm just going to hand over to Nia now, just to give you a little bit more information on those surveys and what we do with them.
Yeah, I think certainly consultation is key, and I think the point that was made in terms of we mustn't be complacent. You know, we're constantly been interacting with schools at every level. So in terms of collating data, first of all, I think it's important that we listen to people's voice and make sure that we create an environment where young people feel comfortable in actually opening up and being emotional literate in terms of you know, reporting any incidents. And we mentioned earlier about building that whole school approach. We need to make sure that everybody feels capable of reporting, whether it's the victim or it could be an onlooker, you know, witnessing the harassment. So in terms of whole school data, we have the Shern data, and it's very extensive. It looks at school connectedness, it looks at every aspect of relationships and the connection that pupils have or learners have with teachers as well, because that trust is really, really important. So the Shern data we then convert into an infographic, so they're easy read to be seen at a glance. And the infographics, as well as the PowerPoints using the data, are then used within the school environment to start that conversation. So people need to understand, or pupils, learners, everybody in school needs to, and staff as well, they need to understand that it's safe to speak out. And then the other element is about, as you mentioned, training. We need to make sure then that teachers are equipped with the skills to be able to act, recognise, as we've already said, those signs, have that conversation, and then to signpost. In terms of the professional learning communities, particularly with the secondaries, we audit continuously the different sorts of processes schools have in terms of recording, and they all have different ways of recording. But just from the data that I have at the moment, we have some of the schools are reporting back that they have incidents logged through SIMS. We have student statement forms which are completed using the restorative conversation model, which go alongside the log and investigations. We use Kiva. I've already mentioned Kiva, which is the anti-bullying, to you know, record any bullying incidents, including victims and perpetrators. And then there are measures in place within that school then to act within the school, but also to signpost to the support agencies. Other schools use OneNote. They're trialling that to monitor, track and log any actions, and also to log the meetings that come about as a result of the you know, the disclosures, and also they record the interventions involved and the referrals made as well. So there's a you know, record of the chain of events as well. You know, to be honest, we're here now representing the authority, but I must say there is certainly commitment from our schools. You know, I can't give you a measure to how committed our schools are. They're certainly not putting their heads in the sand. They are actually, you know, trying their utmost to address these ongoing issues in every direction. And it's about that clarity as well and transparency within the school, which is evident, particularly in some schools more than others. But what's good about the professional learning communities is that they're learning from each other, we're sharing good practice, and then encouraging other schools to follow suit. And my concern is another way of logging incidents as well and safeguarding. And as mentioned in the report, Dr. Lily Brown mentioned the safeguarding officers, which were on board as well. We worked very closely with Rhiannon Lloyd as well, obviously Charffau, who our safeguarding lead, and also Mark Devereux as well. So I'm not sure whether my other colleagues would like to add to how we obviously have that universal approach, which we need to create an environment where we've got confident learners and staff ready and equipped. And then we need to have, as we have got, the targeted intervention where we act when necessary and reflect and monitor. And hopefully then we're trying to get measures in place then to, obviously reduce those risks, from happening again.
Diolch, Nia. And just as an aside as well, our councillor, I was going to call you Dr. Paul then, sorry Dr. Paul, Councillor Paul, Freudian slip. Councillor Paul, our own internal audit team as well do a random dips to look in schools at the evidence, whether it's in place, and they do this when they go into schools. So that also forms part of our monitoring of this particular issue.
Chair, can I just come in on the back of Paul advised the committee earlier on that it's on the back of a report that went to audit and governance and audit back in July. Can I assure members that the audit committee are looking at this because they've requested an update report and action plan on the experiences of peer-on-peer sexual harassment in education settings. So that's going to be presented to a future meeting. I don't have the date. I've tried to quickly look for you, but I'll chase it up and find out when it's going to come to audit. And then, like you say, it's hopefully you'll be reassured.
Thank you, Dawn. Now I've got two councillors on Zoom. So the first one that has put their hand up was Simon. Councillor Simon, please.
Yeah, good evening. Just a couple of questions. How is the RSE responsible teacher in each school? I hope that is prioritised over most things in the constraints that we currently have in school budgets. And I wonder if it attracts any kind of extra responsibility payment to make sure that we're fully covered in all schools. And the other question really was, does this framework and survey cover all of the schools in Conway? I'm thinking particularly of my church school, which I'm a governor of, Catholic primary school, and all the other secondary schools which are not directly selecting or weren't pupils, if I do what you mean.
Thank you. Dr. Lowy, could you?
Yeah, I'll bring Nian, but I'll just respond. So the answer to both of those questions are quite easily, Councillor Simon. It's yes and yes. So there's an RSE lead within each school, and that is a mandatory component as part of the curriculum delivery. So Nia will talk a little bit about that. And as you know, we've got, I think, a medley of different, a range of different types of schools in Conway. We've got our voluntary aided, voluntary controlled, in terms of our faith school, Catholic schools, we've got foundation school, PFI schools, and of course community schools. And this RSE code is mandatory, and it's delivered in every school across the local authority. And what's unique to us here in Conway, which I know I tried to emphasise in my presentation, but maybe I didn't do it enough, is the consistent. We want a consistent approach to this in Conway. So it doesn't matter which school you're at, what your postcode is, what your gender is, what your sexual orientation is. If you've got an issue with any of the aspects that we've discussed this evening, there's a consistent, safe approach to that. And that's our goal and aim. So Nia, I'll just have a talk, we'll share with you now around the RSE lead.
Yes, as Laurie has mentioned, obviously it's mandatory, so schools have no choice. But what we wanted when we started looking at RSE well before the code came into existence, there was a white paper from Welsh Government. We wanted schools to be on board because they wanted to be on board, not because they knew it was going to be mandatory. And what we wanted to avoid was pupils or learners in the primary schools maybe not getting the information that they required, or as they go into secondary. And also we wanted to avoid pupils in year 6 having a crash course on growing up and relationships in the last week of term before they went to secondary. And so we have been working on offering training, whole school training at different levels, bringing in safeguarding training as well. But also we just felt that having the professional learning communities meant that we had key people, and in some schools we have more than one RSE lead, and the RSE lead looks at the strategic delivery. So basically they're not just the go-to person, but they have an understanding of what's required in terms of delivering that mandatory code and guidance, so the nitty-gritty really. And then their role really is to make sure then they identify different people within the school that need training to offer developmentally appropriate information. It's the RSE leads that gain the data, and then they use the data, such as the churn data, the primary online data, to share with the rest of the school, what the issues are in their particular school, so they can tailor the scheme of work to meet the need. But also, in terms of the new curriculum, it's not just an additional role, it's actually everybody's responsibility within the school. So we make sure that we're working with the heads of the areas of learning. So we're working with maths. I was in a school last week, a secondary school, where I was working with head of humanities, maths, and we're looking at the data. And we're looking at the data from the peer-to-peer sexual harassment estimate report, and we're getting different areas of learning to look at RSE to make sure that it's embedded in the subject. So it could be in history, it could be in geography, it could be, because obviously it looks at relationships, creating inclusive schools, it could be looking at data, because what we don't know is that when will that penny drop with that individual. So we need to make sure that the information is accessible in the different areas of the curriculum, so that we're actually, feeding that information to that learner, so that the learner understands it's okay to share or disclose information if I'm worried, but it's also for them to realise, for example, the data, they're not alone. This information is really, really important. So, education is fascinating. We're always learning, and what we're doing is giving teachers the confidence to be able to not just spoon feed, but to actually equip themselves, but also learners as well, because the new curriculum, is all about that holistic approach.
Thank you. I think Councillor Anthony had his hand up earlier, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, well spoken there. I love that. And the thing I'm questioning is, curriculums, academia, the way the schools run, the way the lessons are done. And I think to myself, the teachers are doing this. The teachers, are they considered in their personality, whether they want to actually deliver it this way, or are they constrained to the way the actual SDN and people want these lessons to be delivered? And instead of using their personality to deliver it as a person, and within obviously the realms of the curriculum, and letting them come over without being completely pressurized by everything else that's determined by them. And the attention to detail, the understanding of analysis, and the way they're doing these things. And I just question sometimes whether the teachers can't just deliver themselves as a person, rather than just the constraints of being pressurized and under the pressure of delivering it right for everybody else, if you like, if that makes sense.
It's important to have an environment which is transparent, obviously, and make sure that people feel comfortable and at ease. And it is about rapport. You're right. I mean, it is about rapport. But because of the sensitivity of the subject, we need to safeguard everybody. So it's about making sure that we do have one of the key elements of the training, as well as the PLC, Professional Learning Group, is to make sure that we have ground rules. So teachers, when they raise the issue or they're actually delivering RSE, we have to have set ground rules as to, consider confidentiality, to make sure that we're not judgmental in any way. And these ground rules are shared with the learners as well. So it's an agreement. And that's really important. So it's about, obviously the style of the delivery depends on the subject. So it could be interactive through creative arts. But it's just about making sure that learners aren't asking personal questions to the teachers in the same way. So it's about making sure that we have set ground rules so that we can create a safe environment with transparency, but also professional and respectful and dignified.
I absolutely totally agree. And by the way, I'm a chairman at both London and Craig on School, and my kids who are in the late 20s now went to Sansio, and they're all different in their own capacity, and it's wonderful to see that. And the teachers are doing a fantastic job. I just wish they could release their own personality more rather than being constrained to some sort of curriculum sometimes. But maybe that's a personal thing. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Anthony. Councillor Penny.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak. I'd really like to congratulate all the officers and the members and the officers who have put forward this incredibly complex information and have presented it in such a very positive and detailed manner. I've come from education. I worked in education for a number of years, and I can think back on lots of personal tutorials I've had with learners, where had I been equipped with such information, these things can swing people's lives in so many different directions. I think it's so important that we've embraced this change, and we've embraced how schools are reporting. We've embraced how it's going to be monitored and evaluated. And I love the way that it's embedded in all subjects. So it's across a wide span. There's nothing special about, oh, this lesson Friday afternoon, oh God, it's that one again, talk about stuff we know. I really congratulate you all, and thank goodness education is moving in such a positive way along with society. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Penny. And I agree, having worked in schools for a long time as well. I've got Coletto in there, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to assure the councillors that as I'm advisor for the Catholic diocese within Conwy, that we fully embrace the RSE code of practice. And in fact, the Catholic Education Service have worked with Welsh Government in order to make sure that what we teach in our schools meets the requirements of the RSE, as well as working with the amazing team. And again, that's from experience, that's in Conwy. And I think, Lowry, you can very much say that you're doing such a good job with great confidence, because it really is. But yes, I just wanted to assure councillors that we do fully meet the requirements and welcome it and embrace it within our Catholic schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colette. That's really valuable to know. Thank you. Have we got anybody else that would like to ask any questions? Okay, I've got a quick one myself. It's about the primary survey. So I understand and know about the secondary one. You said that the primary one is bespoke to Conwy. I wondered if any other councils or education authorities have been interested in looking at it or using it.
I'll leave Nia to share that.
Well, I need to acknowledge that this seed came about through a conversation with Dr. Lily Brown when Dr. Lily Brown came to post back in 2018, and I remember sitting with other education advisors and recognising that there was a need for a primary online survey. And it is different to the Shern in that our primary online survey measures the child's perception of the provision in school. And what's been instrumental in this survey is the fact that when schools complete it in the autumn term, despite the fact that sometimes teachers are trying their best to deliver, obviously there are about 30 questions in the survey, looking at well-being, looking at provision in general, but mainly well-being. You know, the teachers trying their best to deliver and doing what they think is the right way, the right approach, but realising then the primary online survey, the perception, the child's perception of the delivery isn't quite what it should be. So using that tool, we've been able to introduce different training, and I must say, you know, I'm impressed how willing schools have been to address maybe the different delivery to make sure that the penny drops with the whole school to make a difference. So an example would be, one of the questions is, my school teaches me about changes to my body. There are questions about my school teaches me about how to interact with other students. And there's just lots of different questions. And I probably won't have an opportunity to show you now, but definitely we have got data to show that the data, comparing data in the October with the summer results, because we repeat the survey in the summer, and in some schools where they've actually brought in the RSE professional learning community, they've committed to Kiva, they've committed to ELSA, Seeking to Grow, all the sort of emotional literacy interventions and all the interventions we offer on securing healthy relationships, fibre to wellbeing. The jump in the difference perception from the autumn term to the summer term is drastic. So some schools are scoring about say 60, 63, which is good, but not good enough. And then they're jumping up at the end, having participated in the interventions and committed, not just one-off interventions, jumping to about 85, 90. The data is just amazing. And also we're able to break it down to such detail. I need to find it, actually, it's here in front of me. About, well, obviously bullying, but the difference between the boys as well. Just find the, just to give you accurate data. Yeah, my school helps me understand changes that happen to my body as I grow up. So the autumn results for the boys, what we were scoring in this particular school, 63%. This school, you know, bought in as in committed to the RSC PLC group. They adopted Kiva, all the interventions I've already listed, and the percentage of boys answering that question, my school helps me understand changes that happen to my body as I grow up, jumped from 63% to 85%. And that's just literally in one academic year. And the girls, it was 69% in the autumn and jumped up to 84%. There's lots of information here which I won't share, but for me, it just it basically fuels the delivery. It just we've got evidence here, local evidence here that we're making a difference. I know earlier on, Councillor Paul talked about not being complacent. This is just the one data for that particular year. This year gone now, we need to be making sure that we're getting the same results year on year on. So yeah, we're persistent in our approach.
Thank you very much. It's good to hear such good feedback from the children, and that it's, being a mother and a teacher, it's nice that they actually remembered something they'd done at school. Because when I asked mine, it was, oh, nothing. So it's lovely to hear that, such positive feedback. Thank you. Have we got anybody else that wants to ask a question or comment? There's a lot of boxes to look at to see if there's any hands up. Yeah. No. Okay, so I'm going to move to our recommendation. So that our recommendation is that members note the content of the report and are assured that our school communities are equipped with sound knowledge, appropriate skills, resources, and have access to constructive support through relevant training and pathways. I want to add on unofficially that I want to say well done, because it's a very, very good report as well. So do I have anyone that would like to propose that? Well, good. I'm glad I've got some help here, because I cannot see all those little hands over there. And do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dillwyn. Thank you. So we've got a proposer, we've got a seconder. Are we happy to go to a vote? Should we go for hands up? Yep. Okay. I think that's pretty much everyone that's on the committee. Thank you very much for that. So that's been absolutely fascinating, really interesting. Well done to those of us that braved the snow and are here in person. So it's nice to see people here. And thank you very much to everybody that came in on Zoom. It's really been a really, really productive and interesting discussion. I've certainly gained a lot from it, and I hope all the rest of you have as well. So I'm going to close this meeting, and I'm going to hope everyone gets home safely and gets nice and warm and snug tonight. Okay. And safe journeys if you have to go out tomorrow. Thank you very much to the members, and thank you very much to the officers. And I will end the meeting.
Thank